You're listening to AMI Today on AMI Audio. It's Monday, July 14th, and I'm your host, Grant Hardy. We have talked about navigation technology a lot on the show, but as far as disability navigation tech goes, as far as it's evolved, it hasn't replaced the humble mobility aid like the white cane. Anecdotally, navigation tech is the biggest thing I see when people are trying to research improving the lives of people with disabilities, especially college kids. They're always working on replacing the mobility aids, but nothing has really happened as of yet. Well, later in the show, Stephen Scott is talking about the We Walk to Smart Cane, and I don't want to spoil it, but he seems pretty impressed with that technology. AMI audiobook review is also coming up in the second half here of the show, but first, it's time for the AMI Audio Digest. The Globe and Mail airs at 10 a.m. Eastern on AMI Audio, repeating every 6 hours. That show is hosted by Corinne Van Dusen and Matt Spears. The summer job has been a rite of passage for high school and university students kind of start making their way in the world. But things are changing. The economy is tough. And Corinne Van Dusen is here on the show talking about what kids can do this summer. Corinne, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Grant. The article is titled "Students Are Finding It Hard to Get Summer Jobs. Here's What Else They Can Do." And it was written by Anita Brunsma. And as you said, a summer job is a rite of passage for a teen. She writes, anecdotally, there are a lot of competition for jobs. And without knowing someone or having a quote unquote in, it's hard to land a summer position. The statistics confirm this. So the numbers are unemployment among 15 to 19-year-olds has risen to 14.9% in 2019 to 22.2% in 2025. For those in college or university, a full-time summer job lasts 4 months, she writes, at about $17 an hour. So that's more than $10,000 in earning. Needless to say, that can make a real dent in the cost of education. But the article really is, if you can't get a job, you still can do other things during the summer that can help out. The list includes learn an employable skill. So teenagers are good at picking up new skills, and the internet provides unlimited learning tools. So become proficient with spreadsheet programs like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, or presentation programs like PowerPoint or Google Slides. So learning stuff like that, including Photoshop, Blender, SketchUp, are all things for the future employable skills, as it said. Volunteer is another suggestion. And volunteering you can do all year round, but you can up your hours in the summer when you don't have classes. Get your driver's license, which she writes is a life skill that provides more flexibility and makes you more employable down the road if you can do that. And then other ones like learn to cook and take a money management course. So enrich your skills for the future while still doing something with your summers.
And we're talking about some serious money here. We're talking about literally thousands of dollars that you can make when you have a summer job. So I can see why people, especially high school kids, are really wanting these summer jobs to kind of take the power, give themselves a little bit of power, some extra spending money, some educational, money to put towards tuition. But basically, this is giving a little bit of hope, I think. Look, there's not there may not be that summer job opportunity this year, but getting something like your first aid, whatever it is, your office skills can be incredibly beneficial. I have to ask you this question. Did you have summer jobs when you were a teen, and where did you work?
I did. My first job ever was at a place called New York Fries, which is a great Canadian
Yes.
fast food restaurant, and I worked there for several years, off and on throughout high school and university. So my summer job was coming back to. I went away to university, and then in the summers I would come back and work that job. So it was fun. A lot of people my age were working at the same time. So you got to learn some
Yes.
skills through there. You got to eat a lot of fries because it's New York fries. So
and And those social connections too are great. Corinne, we only have a couple minutes left, but I'm wondering if you can get to the second article about addressing teachers using formal language in school in Quebec.
Right. It's a opinion piece written by Konrad Yakubuski titled Out with Two and In with Vous as Quebec aims to restore respect in public schools. So he talks about, he opens it with, French immigrants to Quebec, whose numbers have risen sharply in recent years, aren't generally having a difficulty adapting to the social manners of La Belle Province. Most find Quebec's less differential and more egalitarian mores a refreshing change from the more hierarchical and stuffier codes conducted in French society. So it's more a common vernacular of, the less formal vous, which is, a show of respect, to is you. So instead of saying, s'il vous plaît, you say s'il te plaît, sort of thing. It's a small thing, but it's a different level of respect. And now the Coalition Avenir Québec is saying, you know what? We want to bring back that respect. We want to bring back, it's called vouvoiement, and make it mandatory in public schools. So you have to now address your teachers as Monsieur or Madame, and you cannot use their first names, and that's going to be written into a bill for schools.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? That was one of the most difficult things for me adapting when I took French immersion is figuring out those two different ways of saying you. And sometimes people could get a little bit annoyed when you would use the one they weren't expecting. But now it seems like the language is going to be really policed here in schools. And, just for good measure, they remind us in a couple sentences in that article that there's also a cell phone ban. I think that's going to be even more difficult for people to get used to. Anyways, Corinne,
not going to be popular with students, I would think.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Corinne, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
That is the Globe and Mail. First airing at 10 a.m. Eastern on AMI Audio and repeating every 6 hours. That show is hosted by Corinne Van Dusen and Matt Spears. Just a reminder, by the way, about our AMI research panel. We are still looking for members of the disability community to join up. Our research panel guides every single decision we make at the company, like programming and media accessibility, and you can even get compensated for those long-form studies. Hey, kind of like that summer job. For more information or to join up, you can head to our website at ami.ca/panel. We'd love to hear from you. Double Tap is AMI Audio's very popular accessible technology show. That show airs at 12 noon Eastern, repeating every 6 hours on AMI Audio. Always look forward to these conversations with Sean Priest and Stephen Scott. We've got Stephen on today. And Stephen, we have had so many individuals, companies, researchers try and evolve the cane, make it smarter. And I don't know that anything has really kind of hit the jackpot yet. But today you're talking about a product that it seems like you're very impressed by.
Yeah. Hi, Grant. How are you? Well, here's the thing. So I'm been testing out the WeWalk Smart Cane 2, the return of the amazing cane. And this one, I have to say, is a massive improvement on the first edition. First edition of this cane came out. You couldn't use it in the rain, Grant. I mean, I don't know about you, but I find a lot of countries around the world, not all, but a lot of countries, have rain. And that, of course, causes a slight problem for the WeWalk Smart Cane in particular. So the WeWalk Smart Cane 2, definite improvement. They've made it a much smaller, much lighter device. So it feels very much in the hand like a regular cane. And it's just the top part of the cane you're actually buying. The rest of the cane is your standard Ambutech cane. Good old Canadian company there. And using the traditional cane tips. So, really good in terms of being able to, buy a new cane. If your cane gets broken, you don't have to worry too much about it. The WeWalk part is just at the top. That's where all the technology is. And the function of it really is to give you two extra things. It gives you obstacle detection from chest and head height, which is really useful. And it also gives you access to an app on your smartphone that you can control entirely via the cane with buttons on the cane. So it means that in theory, at least, you can leave the house with your phone in your pocket and you don't have to pull your phone out again. And if I couple that with my Meta Ray-Ban glasses that are getting my audio from my voiceover through my glasses, the cane audio is actually coming through the glasses as well, then you've got a pretty decent solution to walk around at least one hand free.
So we're talking, I guess, about a couple things. First of all, you and I, especially where we live, rains a lot. I guess we're gonna lose our excuse to not go out in the rain. No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
So, but can you give me a sense of, I guess, just when you go through your day with the WeWalk, like what would it look like? Does it play the audio from your phone? Is that how it works? Or like when you step out your door, what would you do with the WeWalk game?
Yeah, and you know, all these questions are really important because there's so little information out there from users who are actually trying this out. There's lots of promise, lots of hope, lots of ideals, but you're right. How does this thing actually work in real life? So what happens is the app itself is called WeWalk. It's available on your smartphone. You can actually go and download it at any time because you don't have to have a WeWalk smart cane to use it. You obviously get the most benefit out of it, but the real purpose of being able to download it without having the cane is so you can kind of get used to navigating the app, using it for exploration, for navigation, which, you know, in that way is very similar to other apps you may use like Google Maps and Apple Maps and so on. But this is built for blind people. Now, when you
Mhm.
connect it to the smart cane, when you get the smart cane too, what actually happens is you control the whole thing via the cane. So there are buttons on the cane you control it with. The audio actually then comes through your phone. Now, in my case, it will come through my Meta Ray-Ban glasses because they are connected to my phone. So the phone audio, essentially, or the audio from the cane, comes wirelessly from the cane to the phone and then bounces to any kind of headset that you might have on, be it bone conduction, maybe the AirPods or the Meta Ray-Bans. So that's how the audio travels. But there's also a speaker and a microphone inside the cane. So you can actually talk to the cane through the course of your journey. Now, there are many different things you can do with that. You can say, where's the nearest cafe? Where's the nearest restaurant? You know, if I'm looking for a Starbucks, where is it? You can also ask it things like, why you would want to, I don't know, but you can ask it things like, hey, you know, I fancy making some chocolate chip cookies when I go home tonight. What's a good recipe for that? And there, your cane will blurt out to the entire world how to cook chocolate chip cookies.
Oh,
Again, don't know
that's
why you'd
cool.
want that, but it's there. Yeah.
So
Well,
is
I mean,
it
there's lots of reasons why it could be useful, right? There's lots of practical things. You might be at a building and you know what the building is and you want to know more about it. You can ask your cane. But it's a really interesting piece of tech. I've got lots more to say about it on the show and plenty more to say beyond that as well as I continue testing it out. But it's actually a really interesting piece of kit. And what I like most about it is it doesn't get in the way of my navigation. That's the bit we don't want. We don't want things to add new problems. We want things to solve problems. This goes some way to that, I think.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. I'm just worried, how much is this going to cut into my savings this year as I look at getting a
Well,
Meta Ray-Ban and the WeWalk maybe as well.
if it works for you, it might be worth it. That's the question. That's the thing I always say. But hey, you know, there's a lot of
uh,
good deals on at the minute, so it might be worth checking
yeah,
out during the summer months.
no, I'm kidding. No, it's super exciting stuff. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Grant. Have a great day.
That is Double Tap at noon Eastern, repeating every 6 hours on AMI Audio. The Washington Post airs at 11 a.m. Eastern, repeating every 6 hours on AMI Audio, hosted by Mike Ross, who joins us on the show today. And one of the articles they're presenting today, Mike, the title is Fear of a Woke Superman. Mike, what do you have for us today?
Well, there is this new Superman movie in theaters, and of course, the minute it came out, the MAGA defenders of Donald Trump needed to find a way to turn this into some kind of fodder. And how did they do it? They go after Superman, the character of Superman, as an immigrant. He's an immigrant to this country. He's an illegal, and he's way too liberal. He's all about helping, the needy and people who are vulnerable, and so we don't like it. Essentially, it's just basically the premise, I guess, of this movie is that Superman is taking on these world leaders. that in his estimation are up to no good. And let's face it, over 87 years of Superman, partly a Canadian creation, by the way.
Mhm.
Superman has fought all kinds of villains over time, right? So back in the 30s, it was Al Capone and the mob. In the 40s, late 30s, early 40s, it was Adolf Hitler and Nazism and fascism. In the 60s, it was kind of like the mad scientists, the weird scientists. And then the Cold War, he was fighting the Cold War enemies of the United States. So Superman's always been a character who has stood up for the United States, right? And it's the guy who's in pursuit of the protecting the American way, right? And in this case, um, because he's going after politicians and seemingly it seems like it's a bit of several pot shots at current world
Mhm.
leaders. It gave MAGA people the opportunity, if you will, to go after Superman as being woke.
Yeah, that's sort of the interesting thing, and I kind of delve into this a little bit in the article. Is like this idea of, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Changing up all these characters, making them woke, making them non-traditional. But the thing is that Superman is not traditional at all. This character has been around for many, many, many years, and as you said, has gone through all kinds of iterations in terms of what he's fighting against. So I guess the question is, how are we in this position where we're so enraged just by a film character, a superhero in a movie?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think a lot of people are just tired of superhero movies. And as someone who is a fan of Superman movies and Batman and the Hulk, I am kind of there, right? There are a lot of
Mhm.
these Marvel movies like I've never even seen. I have no interest in seeing. There's just way too much of the genre. It feels like that pendulum has swung way too far to one end, and it just seems like we're being bombarded with them all the time. And I feel the same way about some Pixar films. It used to be something kind of special that sort of stood out. Now they're mass produced, and it's just like everything else in the world, Grant. I mean, I come from the world of sports where the NHL had the Winter Classic, and the very first Winter Classic ever was Buffalo and Pittsburgh outdoors in Buffalo,
Mhm.
and it snowed and it was amazing. It was like watching a hockey game in a snow globe. And I warned them way back then that you don't want to overdo it. Don't have too many outdoor games because they lose their cachet. Keep it special. But of course, they don't do that. They have multiple outdoor games a year. I mean, this coming season, they're having two outdoor hockey games in the state of Florida. How does that not water down the novelty of the product? And I feel
Yeah.
the same way about superhero movies. So I think on the one hand, the people just love attacking superhero movies, but I also think that in the world of 24-hour cable news and entertainment, the opinion people at night, sort of after 7 p.m., they need fodder. And this is just fodder. And it's just them jumping on Hollywood because it's an easy target for the right.
Yeah, 100%. And people are just dealing with hard times right now too. So perhaps a superhero is not the most forgiving sort of portrayal either. But interesting stuff. Mike, got to let you go there. But thanks so much for joining us today.
All right. Thanks, Grant.
Cheers. That is again the Washington Post, 11 a.m. Eastern on AMI Audio, repeating every 6 hours. Maclean's magazine airs Tuesdays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI Audio, repeating every 6 hours. Amy Amantea joins the show to talk about one of the articles in Maclean's today about a really cool group called Patriotic Millionaires and some of the things they're advocating for. Amy, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, this is a really cool article. In fact, I learned a lot of stuff in this article, Grant. This one's entitled, I'm a Millionaire, Tax Me More, Please, by Avi Bryant, and it's Avi is the Millionaire. It's a person written article, and so this I don't know, club, I guess that you call it, the Patriotic Millionaires Club, for lack of a better words,
Mhm.
um, is something that Avi and his wife are a part of. And when Avi thinks about his journey in becoming a millionaire and his wanting to pay more taxes, starts when he thinks about, the fact that he's born in Canada, but that his parents immigrated from the United States, that they grew up in co-op housing that was provided by the BC government, or in Vancouver, but provided by the BC government, that he went to public school, that he got a scholarship to UBC that was afforded to him by public money, and that he started a small entrepreneurial tech company called DabbleDB, which he received venture capitalism funds, not venture capitalism, pardon me, but that he received funds for as part of I guess the federal money, in a sense, and that he had the opportunity to invest and to explore and to develop this tech program, which he then sold to Twitter and got shares in, and then those shares increased in value so much that he was able to sell those shares and pay very little taxes on those. But the whole premise of this idea is that Canada invested a lot in him and put him in an opportunity where, if he failed at this entrepreneurial exploration, that he lived in a country that had social medical systems and places where he could sort of fail safely in some sense of the word. And then he wonders, after all of this sort of safety net that Canada set up, what is Canada getting back? Is Canada getting back what it deserves from this upper 1% that has earned all of this money from sort of the safety nets and the money that Canada has invested in them? So it's a really interesting topic.
Yeah, it's a really interesting sort of wrinkle between people's perceptions and reality, especially people who consider themselves self-made. I came from nothing and I'm now rich, which proves that, we
It can be
don't
done.
need whatever we don't need whatever. But in reality, those people are literally taking advantage of the government social safety net that oftentimes people become against. So it's really cool to see this kind of perception. I guess the question is, where is the balance, Amy, between taxing the rich and making Canada an unappetizing place for entrepreneurs?
Well, Avi makes a really interesting point in this article, which is that all of the tech companies will say, oh, if we tax too hard on these companies, they will take their entrepreneurial tech startups to other places and they won't stay in Canada. And he pushes back against that big time. He says, that's really not true, because anybody who is in a tech company, or any company that wants tech people to come and flourish here, or I guess, Grant, I'm going to use this term, spend their ideas in Canada, because not every tech idea will flourish. But these folks want to live in a place where their families will be happy, where they have access to medical care. He points out this same example in California. Why it's sort of like the tech startup and tech hub it is today is because people want to live in a place that's beautiful, that they have good quality of life, that, Californians still have good access to good medical. All of those things are really important, right? And then he points to a country like Denmark, who has a very small population compared to Canada's, but that they tax appropriately, and they're considered one of the happiest, if not the happiest country in the world to live in, because all of the taxes that they take in provide this balance where folks who are learning, it's an equity between earnings, right? And so there isn't this great divide between the super, super rich and where the super, super rich are super rich. They're helping to pay for the social systems that keep folks that earn less in happier life and have better quality of life.
Yeah, 100%. You look at places that tax hugely and they just seem so happy. They have incredible social safety nets. And that's what they're really saying. Be brave, invest money in childcare and scientific research and climate and basic income and really do what you gotta do, even if it means taxing the rich. It's a really cool article. And any last thoughts here before we let you go?
Yeah, he says at the very ending and of the article, which I thought was great, he argues that, quote, we need a democratically elected government that demands the wealthy reinvest in this country instead of waiting for them to pick and choose their own spending priorities. Of course, he's talking about charity. That the only solution to our biggest economic issue is that rich Canadians don't have to choose between charity and paying our fair share of taxes. He says, "Trust me, I'm a member of the 1% club. We can afford to do both."
Love it. Great article. Amy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Grant.
That's Maclean's magazine on AMI Audio, first airing at 9 a.m. Eastern, repeating every 6 hours on Tuesdays and Fridays. That is going to do it for the AMI Audio Digest here. If you're listening on AMI Audio, AMI Audiobook is coming up in just a second here. If not, you can also find the show on YouTube. And we're looking back at one of our favorite episodes with Jacob Szymanski and Amy Amantea. And they posed the question to the book club, what book sounds like would be boring, but is actually amazing and really interesting if you give it the chance? Remember, you can find AMI Audiobook review wherever you listen to podcasts, and that includes YouTube. Thanks so much for listening to the AMI Audio Digest.